Hey everyone, thanks for having us. Thanks for having me over here. So somebody just asked me a question before I got on stage, and I think that has fundamentally changed the way I'm going to present today. That person said that, give me some tips, give me some secrets for how do you become, how do you do entrepreneurship, how do you become successful. And I suddenly realized that, there are dreams, and then there is success, and there are achievers, right? All of us are dreamers over here. We heard some extremely successful and people who have achieved in life talk to us a little bit before. And what comes between dreams and success is this amazing thing called reality, right? And I think that's what I'm going to talk about today, the reality of the dreams that I've had in the last few months and the few years. And I think, and what I was telling him is also perhaps the only reason that stops people from becoming dreamers to successful people is the scare of facing the reality sometimes and the comfort of falling where they are. So I'm going to talk about how I am facing the realities right now. I'm choosing to face the realities that I have in the past and why I'm doing that. And I hope that you can catch something from it as well. So the big dream that I have right now is that I want to healthify India. I want to make this country a healthier, fitter country. And the reason I have that dream and I'm very passionate about it is because I believe, actually let me ask this as a question to you. Do you know what's the biggest threat affecting our nation right now? I'm glad the general's not here anymore, so we won't hear of our neighbors, right? Anybody else, for what's the biggest threat that is out there for our nation that can stop us from becoming that superpower in 2020? We are becoming an urban, fat India. Okay, we are migrating from the central Indians to the coastal areas. We are migrating from a rural economy to an urban economy. We have over 500 million people that are in urban environments, all of us included, who are becoming educated and are joining the corporate workforce. And immediately following that are rising waistlines and diabetes and hypertension. This is a problem that should not be ignored. Right? We should not be only concerned about the bottom half of the country. We should be equally concerned about the other half of the country as well that is struggling very hard to make this country into a superpower. And the biggest thing that can stop us in our tracks is the fact that we're becoming the diabetes and hypertensive capital of the world. So literally about 200 million people are hypertensive and 3 of 5 cardiac patients we will have in India by 2020, the same year we're supposed to be a superpower. So why am I obsessed about health and about fitness, right? Why is this the dream that I'm choosing to follow and the reality I'm faced with? I'm going to give you a quick prelude as to how my tryst with this particular passion happened. In 2004, I was here in India. I was actually at the national school, the Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology in Delhi. And I was, as one of you, studying engineering. And I transferred out to University of Pennsylvania in the East Coast, and then I started my career as an investment banker in the West Coast. I was quite comfortable there, happy to be an investment banker, happy to earn a lot, and achieving what usually people define at our age as typical parameters of success. I moved over to Singapore as an investment banker again with Deutsche Bank. But somehow, as soon as I had paid off my student's loan, something didn't feel right. I really wanted to be back here and working with the country, understanding what it means to be an Indian. I was kind of disillusioned suddenly, 23, 24 years old, earning at that time equivalent of 30,000 rupees a day, very comfortable in the Western economies. Yes, it was the heyday of investment banking. It hasn't quite reached that back yet after 2007, but back then it was. I wanted to come back and understand the realities of our country, and I came back and joined the government of India in its unique ID project with Mr. Nilekani in the Aadhaar project. And I was working across different spectrum of Indian infrastructure, right? I looked at oil and gas, various financial institutions. I understood the corporate sector of India, the urban sector, the government. Something that interacted with people right on the ground in urban environments, in tier 2 cities, tier 1 cities. Everybody's getting smartphone friendly. The future of India is looking bright and promising, but this is what happens on a daily basis as well. Something I realized firsthand is that unfortunately our eating habits were extremely wrong. This is the one thing that struck chord with me, right? Being in a Western economy, people are extremely conscious about what they eat, how they eat, the nutrition of what they're consuming, etc. But we are not, and we incessantly just go on eating whatever is there in front of us, right? There's something known as Google syndrome as well, which is when you join Google, which many of you I'm sure are aspiring to do, you'd gain about 10 pounds in like a year because food is right next to you and you just consume it incessantly, right? This happened to me as well, by the way. I gained about 20 kgs in 12 months of being back in India. Boom, right? Just by being here, this is what happened to me. And of course, what it implied was the increasing diabetic, and hypertensive risk that came along with that. Immediately post that, I decided to do something again pretty crazy, which is to go live on 100 rupees a day and then 32 rupees a day, just to understand what it means to be an average Indian and what it means to be a poor Indian. No, it was not the average Indian diet that I suddenly wanted to be on to lose weight. I truly wanted to understand what it means to be an Indian and how do we as India survive on our own budgets, right? Just before this, at the same time, in parallel, I was also trying to get back into shape. So I was trying to count my calories, count my nutrition. And of course, I moved into the comfort zone of what made sense to me, right? Which was my Western food. I started cooking salads and pastas at home and really understanding, because I knew I could quantify that really well. A lot of prelude I'm giving you, and the reason why I'm giving you this is to basically help you understand that, sometimes you have to sort of be patient to let that dream emerge into reality. Sometimes it's a cross-links of various different aspects of your thought that happen to make something pretty awesome come to place. So, here's how my 100 rupees a day look like. To those of you who were asked question, I had to survive on both food and non-food amount of in that particular day, right? I literally had 1.5 rupees for dairy, 9 rupees for fruit. To those of you who have joined us from the villages, this doesn't seem that hard. 32 rupees got really hard because the food and non-food was part of it. Yes, the only thing we could consume was literally the rice, nothing else. It was pretty tough to live on that income level. But what was extremely hard was to even track what we were consuming at that income level. We were trying to cook at home, literally having drops of milk because that's all we could afford. We went and lived with a farmer in a village at 32 rupees a day. The thing is that, it seems exciting and seems impressive to an external audience now. It was extremely hard and difficult at that time. Again, this was probably one of the areas where I would like to talk about the whole dream to reality bit, because the dream was, let's go live like an average Indian. The reality is extremely hard, right? The reality of being poor means the reality of facing hunger, the reality of facing extreme psychological issues, of feeling agitated all the time. The experiment taught us a lot. An exceptional amount, right? It taught us how to be humble to our fellow citizens, it taught us how to be extremely grounded, to understand what people face, to really understand how hungry, angry you are when you're riding in a bus trying to get back home, and how likely you are to just react to somebody if someone brushes against you. So next time someone does that to me, I'm like, it's totally cool, I understand, I know where you're coming from, right? So it was a real rude shock awakening. And there were many things but the thing is that when you try to actually undergo these harsh realities of your dream, great things happen. I met two exceptional people in this experiment of mine. A girl who was very supportive. Her name was Trista. She's now my wife. I met this amazing guy who also joined me in this experiment. His name was Matt. He was from MIT. We did this together, and he became my co-founder of my startup, right? So again, you have to dream and then you have to sort of jump on it, and the reality is extremely harsh, it's cold, it's frightening, but you keep at it and great things happen. The media really loved us. We got covered exceptionally widely about this experiment, even though we didn't really intend to. There was no PR agency we had with us, but we were very lucky to be covered in a great detail about that experiment. And there's a lot that we advocated about that experiment. We talked about how the best way to get everybody connected is not by laying fiber optics, but just by providing end user subsidy on mobile phones, something that was taken up by the government quite well. We talked about providing transportation facilities. So we used all of our economy background, social understanding, and we applied that to our situations and people around us, and did some pretty novel work that you can check out at 100rupeesaday.com, and that gained some momentum. But I think the most significant insight that we learned out of this experiment was that adequate nutrition was very hard to achieve, right? At 100 rupees a day, we could only afford about 1900 calories, and we could approximately have the right mix needed. And at 32 rupees a day, it's virtually impossible. The other insight that came across right from this experiment itself, is that tracking that nutrition was impossible. So adequate nutrition you can only analyze once you can track that nutrition, right? And we tried very hard to figure out, and there were no apps that could really track Indian foods quite well. Apps itself didn't exist in a very common place, etc. So we started building like an Excel sheet where we started tracking all of the attributes of calories and of nutrition, etc. And we tried to track what we are consuming. And then immediately after that, we went around giving talks and told to a few people about our experiment. And a lot of people came back and said that, could we have an access to that Excel, please? Because we'd like to track what we are consuming. We'd like to get fitter, we'd like to get back in shape. We really want to understand what this whole Indian food is about. What is gulab jamun and bisi bele baat, and does it make sense for me to have that or not? And we figured that, here's a very interesting thing, that something born out of the poor India can really help the urban India in a very large way right now, right? And so we decided, why don't we actually start giving that Excel out? But instead of giving an Excel, let's make an app out of it. Sometimes it's better to just give out an app. You can sort of keep upgrading that without any problem. You don't have to, we use technology to our advantage and just sort of throw it out there. And I think that was a pretty defining step, because the dream was, hey, people want this, can we give it to them? The reality was, let's build an app and throw it out there. We could have chosen to be a little scared of that reality, but we decided to jump on it. And this is kind of what happened, right? We built the world's first Indian calorie counter, delivered on your mobile about a year and a half down the line. That's how the journey actually began. The good news was, suddenly started, once you start on that dream, the reality is you're working 16 hours a day, which we still are. Reality is that, you're struggling with finance sometimes really badly. You have like almost no money left in your account multiple times. That happens. But the good news is, if you keep at it, great people join you. An amazing team collaborated with us. People were very open to give us advice. People were very open to come back and accept our solution. And in about a year from them, in 2012, we could launch this kind of a website which can help people track their Indian calories, right? We thought that was a cool thing to do. Let's go out and do it. Let's give it off to those few hundred people, and then we're going to see where life goes from there. And we literally built that, about tens of thousands of foods in 13 languages, millions of data points. Literally wrote them down together and put it together. And we were very lucky that, this is something I think that you will really understand it as well when you jump on that reality of entrepreneurship, is that you will find a lot of partners and collaborating people ready to open their arms. I was very happy to see that India is very open to taking risks right now with young entrepreneurs. And we saw that firsthand. Many of the names that I'm showing you here were very openly collaborating with us, allowing us to test on their patients, allowing us to test on their employees about a product, letting us use their users and database to actually track their lifestyle and get feedback, give feedback. That app kind of continued to emerge and evolve, right? We were able to hire some designers, engineers, because we really believed in that dream and we were facing that reality, and we were struggling, starving entrepreneurs. There were people who could really see that, and because we believed in it so strongly that people were willing to invest in us as well. We raised a quick $250,000 fund round in about 2013 that accelerated us further in this growth pattern, and we could build out a reasonably decent looking app out there. Right? And we threw it out and we thought, let's see how many hundreds or thousands of downloads it can happen. And the first year, this is what happened. So we're like, okay, the growth was okay. We got a few thousand downloads, but that doesn't mean anything in our app space. What do we do from there? It's tough again. We expected the classic hockey stick curve immediately to, jump in and, for us to really take off. But that doesn't happen again. That is wishful thinking. The reality of the dreaming is a lot of struggle. The app had many issues. People weren't using it. People were using it and dropping off. People who were using it and not dropping off were finding it sometimes clunky to use. So we had to rework, go back to the design board, create various versions of it, added many features that made sense, took off many features that didn't make sense, expanded the team to include nutritionists and trainers as part of our platform, and continued to grow the product till we made a much better looking version of the app where you could track your Indian foods, your exercises, your weight. We connected with leading wearables that are out there, which you can wear around your wrist or stand on top of it, and that would collect all that data and compile and give it back to you. And the most important thing that we did was that we actually realized that for India and for Indians to really use an application like this, what you need is real humans, nutritionists, trainers, and really a wellness team that can look at your data and give you really good feedback. That's how you can motivate people to change. It's not just by using an app that people will change. So we built that out, layered it in, and we saw some much better data. We were like, okay, 2014 went off well. People started downloading the app, giving us feedback. We saw that we were delivering impact. So we continued to grow that experience. And today we have got our app, we've got a wearable, we've got these services on the cloud, nutritionist trainers. And in the last 18 months, we've almost had 1 lakh registrations. I think we recently crossed. and we've got lots of people who are actually using the app, who are paying for it, who are actually making this thing into a sustainable model. That's how 2015 looks like on the most recent slide. This last, almost 2.5 years worth of journey now since that experiment, since that realizing that people might need that Excel sheet, to coming out here with this entire product suite was countless nights of literally sleepless nights. And as I said, even though you raise money doesn't mean that you're sorted. I saw some, wide-eyed expressions when I said it was raise $250,000. It disappears faster than you can think of it, because talent is extremely expensive to hire. As many of you would negotiate in your own job placements very soon, it gets tough for anybody to really grow. But if you really believe in it, good things happen. But the most satisfying thing about running our app or our product is we've seen real impact delivered in people. We've seen people eat healthier, people exercise more, people reduce their risks for diabetes and for cardiac, especially about morbidly obese people. It really works and it helps a lot. We work with leading hospitals, and we can see that their data looks much better in a few weeks of starting to use our product. Now we have that empirically proven data. We're one of the first apps that is working globally with any healthcare institution, and we're pretty proud of delivering that. And there are real consumer stories who really back us. This is not, I know some of you might be thinking, hey, this sounds like some of those weight loss competitors on the street. But the that's the unfortunate part, right? We are marred by a social stigma of this whole fat and weight loss. We're marred by the people who are on the street trying to sell weight loss solutions. The reality is that it's a wonderful journey to actually get back into fitness and to lose weight, and to do it in a positive scientific manner is brilliant. The lady over there, Chaitali, literally, she was somebody who was diabetic, who was extremely hypertensive, who was getting into a lot of social issues, psychological issues, troubles at family, career issues, right? And she's a different person 6 months later. She's now somebody who runs, who organizes fitness camps, who does really amazing things with her own personal life has improved, etc. So it's good to hear these stories from our own consumers, from our own users come back to us, and we feel great about it. And 90% of them use the product for free. So, so that feels really great as well. I'm not going to get into detail, but there are literally 100,000 such success stories we've had with us. The real question now, as an entrepreneur, is how do we take it from this, 100,000 base to about 10 million base, right? How do we actually meaningfully healthify India? How do we not just restrict it from yet another app that is being used by a few amount of people and stop it there? And I think that's a challenge that anybody faces. So now this is again another dream that we have, and we're trying to work very hard as to how to shape into reality. And we've realized the only way we can do it is by collaborating with other people, collaborating within our own users and with partners. So opening our own product out to community where users can engage with each other and really inspire each other, where consumers like Chaitali can be really, can be brand ambassadors, can go out there and start activating a culture of fitness, something we are working on. We've experimented some really great results out of that. We've again been fortunate to partner with various retail agencies, F&B agencies. They're going to come on board, and together we're going to try and make the whole country healthier. It cannot be accomplished by one person. It has to be done by largers. I'm just showing you a glimpse into the future. Is something that, I'm standing at this intersection now looking forward, right? So as we move on into this next big dream, I think again I'm prepared for this, having various harsh realities, but it's the whole, and that is the reality that's exciting for us. And even though many people who have given us talks today about, and I have been humbled by them about how successful and great in their achievement have been, if you really ask them, even they'll tell you that they're struggling, and they're struggling to get to the next level. They're in that new reality zone where they're moving on to the next orbit shift. And I think, being in that zone, living that reality is extremely exciting and thrilling. So, for any of you who have any dreams, no matter how small or big they are, I urge you to step into the reality and then enjoy the life from there. So, thanks again.